The Langford estate stood as a symbol of wealth, power, and prestige. A sprawling mansion with marble floors, towering gates, and a perfectly manicured lawn that seemed to whisper of a life most could only dream of. Inside, the air was thick with luxury, chandeliers that glowed like captured stars, walls adorned with paintings worth millions, and a silence that, to outsiders, might have seemed like peace. But on the morning of March 12, 2022, that silence was shattered. Paramedics arrived to a scene they would never forget. A body, lifeless and still. Blood soaking through the silk sheets of an expensive bed. The unmistakable scent of death clinging to the air. And standing just feet away, 3 people whose lives were about to change forever. Victor Langford, the billionaire. A man whose fortune shaped cities. A man used to getting exactly what he wanted. Samantha and Olivia Pierce, his stepdaughters, women who had grown up in the shadow of his wealth, drawn into a world of secrets they were never meant to escape. At first, it seemed like a tragedy, a wife found murdered in her own home. A case that would be solved like any other. But as detectives combed through the evidence, a story began to emerge that left even the most hardened investigators speechless. A story of obsession, betrayal, and a love that crossed every line imaginable. What happens when passion turns into possession? When hidden desires ignite something no one can control? And when a family bound by blood and marriage becomes entangled in a crime so disturbing, the truth is almost impossible to believe? Tonight, we unravel the secrets of the Langford mansion. A tale of power, seduction, and murder that would leave an entire nation in shock. This is the case of Victor Langford, the billionaire whose darkest secret cost him everything. Palm Beach, Florida, March 12, 2022. Palm Beach is a place of privilege, a sun-drenched paradise where the wealthiest families retreat behind private gates and oceanfront estates. It's where power isn't just measured in dollars but in influence, who you know, what you own, and the secrets you keep. Among these towering mansions sat the Langford estate, a masterpiece of modern architecture sprawling across 10 acres of the most coveted land in Florida. A home that had been the backdrop to charity galas, exclusive parties, and whispers of business deals worth billions. At the heart of this empire was Victor Langford, a real estate mogul with an empire stretching across the country. At 64, he was a man accustomed to absolute control, the kind of wealth that made problems disappear. His reputation was spotless, at least in the public eye. But behind closed doors, Victor was a man who demanded loyalty and obedience from those closest to him. His wife, Evelyn Langford, was 42, a former model who had once graced magazine covers before trading the runway for a life of luxury. Their marriage, from the outside, appeared perfect. Yet those who knew them best would later say that Evelyn had begun to change. There were rumors she wanted to leave. That she had secrets of her own. Then, there were Samantha and Olivia Pierce, Evelyn's daughters from a previous marriage. Samantha, 26, was intelligent, confident, and fiercely independent. Olivia, 22, was the quieter of the two, more reserved, but just as strikingly beautiful as her mother. They had been teenagers when their mother married Victor, thrown into a world of wealth they had never imagined. They had grown up in that house, in its opulence, under Victor's watchful gaze. But on the morning of March 12, 2022, all of that would come crashing down. It was 8:27 a.m. when the first call came in. She's dead. There's blood everywhere. Please send someone, please. The call came from inside the Langford estate. A voice trembling, on the verge of breaking. The operator tried to keep the caller calm, but there was panic in every breath. Within minutes, Palm Beach PD dispatched officers to the residence. The first responders stepped into a house that looked untouched by chaos, until they reached the master bedroom. Evelyn Langford lay motionless on the bed, her silk nightgown stained dark red. The once pristine white sheets were soaked through. A deep wound to the chest. Defensive marks on her arms. No sign of forced entry. No broken windows. Nothing stolen. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't random. This was personal. Standing near the foot of the bed was Victor Langford, still dressed in his suit from the night before, silent, his face unreadable. Beside him, Samantha Pierce, tears streaking her face, her body shaking. Olivia was nowhere to be found. Detectives arrived within the hour, led by Detective Marcus Reynolds, a man who had seen his fair share of high-profile cases but sensed, almost immediately, that this one would be different. Victor was questioned first. His statement was brief. He had arrived home late after a business meeting, gone straight to his study. He said he never went into the bedroom. He claimed he had no idea what had happened to his wife until he woke up to Samantha screaming. It was a simple story. Too simple. The officers moved methodically through the house, searching for any signs of struggle outside of the bedroom. The kitchen, spotless. The living room, untouched. Everything in its place, except for one thing. On Evelyn's nightstand, partially hidden beneath a stack of fashion magazines, an old leather-bound journal. It belonged to Samantha Pierce. Detectives opened it carefully, flipping through its pages, reading the handwritten words scrawled across months, years of entries. As they read, the weight of the case shifted. This wasn't just about a murder anymore. This was a story far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. And it all began with a love that never should have existed. The pages of Samantha's diary were filled with carefully written entries, some innocent at first. Mundane details of her daily life, mentions of dinners, vacations, and expensive gifts. But as detectives flipped through the months, the tone changed. The words became more frantic. More intimate. More disturbing. One entry, dated November 6, 2019, stood out. I never meant for this to happen. He says it's different with me, that I understand him in ways Mom never could. I know it's wrong. I know what people would think. But I don't care. I love him. The him she referred to was Victor Langford. Detectives continued reading, their unease growing with each word. The affair hadn't just been going on for months, it had lasted for years. Samantha had been 21 when it started. Victor had bought her silence with gifts, money, and whispered promises that one day, Evelyn would be out of the picture. That she would take her mother's place, not just in the family, but in the mansion, in his life, in his bed. But then came another revelation. Just 6 months earlier, the entries became erratic. Desperate. Filled with anger and betrayal. She's ruining everything. I see the way he looks at her now. The way he touches her. She's younger, prettier. I was stupid to think I was special. He used me. Just like he's using her. The she was Olivia Pierce. Both stepdaughters had been involved with Victor. One woman, scorned. Another, favored. And a wife caught between them, unknowingly standing in the way of a storm that was about to explode. When detectives confronted Samantha, her reaction was immediate, anger, frustration, and something that looked a lot like heartbreak. I loved him. Her voice cracked. You don't understand. I was the one he wanted. Me. But Olivia? She was the problem. She ruined everything. Olivia, when questioned separately, told a different story. Samantha wanted Mom out of the way. She wanted her dead. And Victor, the detective asked. A pause. A flicker of something in Olivia's expression. Guilt. Fear. He told her what she wanted to hear. That's what he does. He manipulates people. He made us think we were special. But in the end, we were just toys to him. Victor Langford, however, said nothing. The moment detectives presented the diary, he requested a lawyer. He refused to answer a single question. His silence spoke louder than words. As investigators processed the crime scene, more inconsistencies surfaced. The bloodstains on the sheets suggested Evelyn had struggled. She hadn't been asleep when she was attacked, she had fought back. Even more concerning was the security footage from the estate's elaborate surveillance system. Footage that would have captured every movement in the house that night. Every door that opened. Every shadow that moved down the long, dimly lit halls. But between 2:30 a.m. and 4 a.m., the footage was missing. Deleted. Erased by someone inside the house. Then, there was the earring. In Evelyn's clenched fist, paramedics found a small gold stud earring. The kind that could easily go unnoticed in a struggle. A sign that she had fought against her attacker, grabbing onto anything she could. Forensics confirmed something else. It belonged to one of her daughters. But which one? Was this a planned murder, or a crime of passion? Detectives were left with two burning questions. Was this a carefully orchestrated murder, planned and executed to remove Evelyn from the picture? A plot by Samantha, desperate to claim the life she believed was rightfully hers? Or had years of manipulation, lies, and jealousy built to a breaking point, a moment of uncontrolled rage that ended in blood? One thing was certain, someone in the Langford mansion knew the truth. And they weren't talking. The break in the case didn't come from forensics or surveillance footage. It came from someone within the mansion. Someone who had spent years blending into the background, unnoticed by the powerful family she worked for. The housemaid. Maria Sanchez had been with the Langfords for nearly a decade. She had seen things, heard things, that she had never spoken of. Affairs, arguments, late-night whispers behind closed doors. She had learned to keep her head down, to ignore what was best left unspoken. But 2 nights before the murder, she had heard something she couldn't ignore. Tucked away in the hallway outside Victor Langford's study, she had been dusting the shelves when she overheard hushed voices, heated, desperate. Samantha and Victor. Maria had her phone with her. She had been listening to music. But something about their tone made her pause. She pressed record. The audio was faint, crackly, but the words were unmistakable. Samantha's voice, "If she's gone, we can finally be together." A long pause. A breath. Victor's response, "Don't say that." Then, Samantha again, more forceful this time. "You know it's true. She's in the way." It wasn't an outright confession. It wasn't enough to convict. But it was damning. Maria handed the recording over to the detectives, her hands shaking. "I was afraid. But I knew. I knew this wasn't right." While the housemaid's testimony was powerful, detectives needed physical evidence to confirm who had been in the house at the time of the murder. They turned to cell phone records. Olivia had told police she had been asleep in her room that night, unaware of anything until she woke up to the sound of sirens. But her phone told a different story. Data from cell towers placed Olivia's phone near the master bedroom suite at 3:14 a.m. Exactly when Evelyn was believed to have been attacked. Even more suspicious, her phone was unlocked at 3:16 a.m. A single message was typed but never sent. "I can't do this anymore." To whom? The recipient was unknown. But the meaning was clear. She had been awake. She had been near the crime scene. And she had wanted out. Had she tried to stop something? Or had she been a part of it? A secret witness? The final piece of the puzzle came from someone who, until now, had remained silent. Alex Ruiz, the Langford family chauffeur. For years, he had driven the family from charity galas to private airports, waiting in the background as they lived their luxurious lives. He never asked questions. But on the night of March 12, 2022, he saw something that haunted him. At 4:07 a.m., just minutes after the estimated time of death, Victor Langford emerged from the mansion. Alex had been sitting in the driveway, waiting for a scheduled early morning drive. Victor wasn't dressed in his usual tailored suits. He was in a robe. His hands trembled. He was sweating. "I saw him pacing back and forth," Alex later told detectives. "He looked off. Not like himself." Then, Victor turned to him and muttered a phrase Alex would never forget. "It had to be done." Then, Victor disappeared back inside. Had Alex just witnessed the moment after the murder? Or was Victor covering for someone else? With the housemaid's recording, Olivia's exposed lies, and the chauffeur's damning statement, police had enough to make an arrest. On March 15, 2022, 3 days after Evelyn Langford's brutal murder, officers arrived at the Langford estate. Victor Langford was in his study, sipping whiskey, his lawyer already by his side. "Victor Langford, you are under arrest for the murder of your wife, Evelyn Langford." His reaction? No emotion. No resistance. Just a slow nod, as if he had expected this moment all along. But there was one problem. Samantha and Olivia. Both women had been implicated. Both had motives. And both had been near the crime scene that night. Yet, neither had been arrested. Were they innocent? Or was this family's darkest secret still hiding in the shadows? The trial of Victor Langford became one of the most sensational cases in Palm Beach history. The courtroom was packed every day, reporters, true crime enthusiasts, even socialites who once attended the same extravagant galas as the Langfords. The prosecution laid out their case with damning precision. Victor Langford, a billionaire used to controlling everything around him, couldn't stand losing power over the women in his life. When Evelyn became a threat to his twisted relationships with her daughters, he eliminated her. Samantha, his obsessed lover, helped him orchestrate the crime. They played Maria Sanchez's secret recording in court. The hushed voices filled the silent room. "If she's gone, we can finally be together." Gasps echoed as the jury listened. Samantha's face remained expressionless. Then came the shocking twist: the defense team had their own narrative. Victor's lawyers flipped the entire story on its head. They argued that Victor wasn't the mastermind. Instead, they painted Olivia Pierce, the youngest stepdaughter, as the real killer. Their argument? Olivia was jealous. She hated her mother for taking all of Victor's attention. She despised Samantha for getting closer to Victor than she ever did. The defense claimed Olivia had manipulated her own sister, luring her into a deadly plan. They pointed to her unsent text message at 3:16 a.m. "I can't do this anymore." Was that a moment of regret? Or proof that she was in on it? The courtroom erupted in debate. Who was really guilty? Samantha's lawyers argued that she had been a pawn, a victim of Victor's manipulation. Olivia's lawyers fought back, insisting she had nothing to do with the murder. But then came the biggest moment of the trial. The jury requested to hear the diary entry. The prosecution read the final passage from Samantha's diary. It was written the night before the murder. "One way or another. Mom was never going to survive this." Silence filled the courtroom. The prosecutor turned to the jury. Was this a warning? A confession? Or the words of a woman who knew exactly what was about to happen? The verdict was near. On October 14, 2023, after 6 weeks of trial, the jury reached their decision. Victor Langford, guilty of first-degree murder. Sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Samantha Pierce, acquitted. The jury found no concrete evidence linking her directly to the murder. Olivia Pierce, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Sentence: 20 years in prison. The courtroom exploded in mixed reactions. Samantha left the courtroom a free woman, but with the weight of suspicion hanging over her for life. Victor sat motionless as the sentence was read. No emotion. No words. Olivia screamed. "I didn't do it," as guards led her away in handcuffs. The world watched as a billionaire family collapsed, destroyed by the secrets they tried so hard to hide. The Langford estate, once a symbol of wealth and power, was auctioned off. A luxurious mansion, now tainted by blood and scandal. The media frenzy never died down. True crime documentaries, books, online debates. People speculated for years. Did Samantha really get away with murder? Was Olivia actually guilty? Would Victor have killed again if he hadn't been caught? One final mystery remained. In the days after the trial, a new diary entry surfaced. A single sentence, written by Samantha Pierce after the trial's conclusion. "I told you, Victor. Some secrets are worth killing for." Was it a confession? A final taunt? The truth may never be known. But one thing was certain. This family's darkest secret was finally exposed. Do you think justice was truly served? Or did Samantha manipulate the entire situation? If Evelyn had never died, do you think this twisted love triangle would have continued? Who do you think really orchestrated the murder, Victor, Samantha, or Olivia? Drop your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories that uncover the darkest secrets.